What's good, everyone? So today, this is going to be part 2 of how to build a personal brand from scratch. And if you haven't watched part 1, I'm going to put a card up on the screen now, which is going to link you to the first part of this series. So if you haven't watched it, go watch it now, because then you'll be completely confused about what I'm going to talk about here. So let's get straight into it. I see no reason to waste time. Start recording. And if you've watched the last episode, basically go over the overview of how to basically start from scratch, and it goes over the overview, the very high level stuff on how to get started and how to make it successful right off the bat. Now we're going to get into more of the specifics, and what specifically we're going to talk about is the character, because this is quite a loaded topic. So as you can see, what you need is an attractive character, pain and mechanism, and a mission. And here was the stuff from last episode. Now we're going to go into character. What it takes to build an attractive character, and I'll give examples here in a second, are these 7 components. You got the backstory, you got parables, character flows, polarity, us versus them, before and after, and mechanism. So that's actually 8 parts. So let's go through these and I'll give examples so you get what I'm saying here. So the backstory is very self-explanatory. So what's your backstory? Where did you come from? Where were you before? What got you into, what made you become a coach or a consultant? What got you to the path you are now? And where are you now? So the backstory, self-explanatory. My backstory, I've said it before. I'll link a video if you don't know my story. Parables. Now, how parables are different from backstory is parables are like mini stories. So if you think of backstory as the whole film, parables are like scenes or key moments. Now, if you've heard of the word parable before, you've probably heard it from religion, from Christianity or Jesus, because he has a bunch of parables. And what these parables are like mini stories where you get a lesson out of it. And what I want you to do as well is come up with your own parables. So come up with like 5 or 10 examples. You need to know key moments in your life, and you need to know what lessons you learned from them as well. So for example, I was in a friend group. If you watch one of my last videos, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I was in a friend group. This is how I got into entrepreneurship. I was in a friend group, thought I was pretty close, fell out with them for no reason, wanted to get revenge, and then got started in entrepreneurship. So that's a parable in itself, because the lesson that you can learn from that is to keep your options open and always have backups, because you're going to start thinking in scarcity. Because I was thinking in scarcity when I was in this friend group, because those are really the only true friends I had, and then to lose that had a devastating impact on my mental health. I mean, I wouldn't ask for anything else. I'm glad that happened, because I wouldn't be where I am today. But the parable is to keep your options open, have a wide network, and get really good at making friends, basically. So that's a parable without getting too complicated. Character flows. So I explained this to a friend one time, is that you need to show more flaws or weaknesses, or just like nuances in your character. Because if you're just posing to be a successful person all the time, then you're not going to be relatable. Because as I said before, every human has a flaw. Every human has made mistakes, and they'll continue to make mistakes. There's no human who has not done that before. So for you to come in and present yourself as perfect, as omnipotent, and doesn't make mistakes ever, would just not make you, would make you significantly less relatable for your audience. And that's going to make it harder for your audience to trust you and potentially buy from you in the future, because they don't relate to you, they don't relate to your story, and they don't bond with you as much. So you need to show some character flaws. And again, this is where you need to become more vulnerable. So character flaws is a lot of things like arrogance or insecurities, or any hardships, or any challenges that you're dealing with right now to this day. You can be open and show how you're working towards fixing it. So for example, a character flaw that I've had for a while is leaving things last minute / lack of organization. Like I used to be the kid in school where, and my mom hates one of these character traits. I love her, but this is one of the character traits that she really, really hates and nags me on about. And for good reason. I'm working towards it. So one of the things is leaving things last minute. So for example, leaving homework last minute, or leaving to catch the bus last minute when I was in school. Just leaving the house last minute when I've got an important event coming up. It just like, because I don't know why. I think it's just a bad habit that I need to kick. So there you go. That's a character flaw. So I want you to come up with a couple that you're willing to share. Yeah, just flaws, character flaws that you're willing to share, and you're gonna find something pretty amazing. Some people, you might think people will find you less credible. Like, you think your credibility is gonna go down if you share your character flaws, but in reality, you're actually gonna get more trust, and your audience is gonna love you even more because they actually relate to you even more on a closer level. And that's gonna draw them in more, and it's gonna make it easier on the back end to sell them. And that's sounds malicious, but A, that's the truth, and B, it's not all about just trying to sell them on the back end. It's really just like presenting yourself in an authentic way in this coaching consulting space. Because if you can be yourself and just be authentic, then it's a lot of weight off your shoulders, right? Polarity is basically, how do I word this? Polarity is basically where you're drawing a line in the sand, figuratively. You're drawing a line in the sand between your audience, so that on one side, it's if they don't agree with you, they can leave, and they will leave. And the second thing, if they're on the other side of the sand, you're going to bring them in even closer. So let me give an example here. For example, you've seen me, if you've been following me on Instagram, I've been following a meat and sweets diet. And what that basically means is meat and fruit. Again, I'm not an expert. I could be completely wrong, and I'm not a nutritionist. But what I found with this diet, the meats and fruit diet, nothing but good things. I can't think of anything negative about the diet that comes to head right now, but it's just been nothing but good. But there are certain people, especially nowadays, 2022, who are against like eating meat, who are vegan and just aren't with the whole meat thing, basically. And people who follow me, and when I switched to this diet, I didn't get any backlash, but I know some people weren't a fan of it, so they probably unfollowed. It's not like I knew intuitively. Actually, I did know intuitively. Like, once I started posting this and promoting meat consumption heavily, then I knew I was going to lose a couple fans, but that's completely fine. And that's an example of polarity. So, drawing a line in the sand. So try and think of a couple opinions, and again, this is where you have to get a tiny bit uncomfortable in the short term, so that you can build a long-lasting, sustainable personal brand in the future, which is going to make your business thrive. Get uncomfortable now, share some facts or thoughts, or just be more open, and cause some polarity in your audience. Like, don't be afraid for some people to leave you because of differing opinions. And then the people who do agree with you, you're only going to bring them closer. Us versus them is next. Now, how that differs from polarity is us versus them is like you're putting yourself in a group, and the polarity is drawing a line in the sand. So let me explain. Us versus them is like, it's like you're putting yourself in a group, and then whose side would you never be on in a million years? So for example, not to get political, but I think the main example that comes to mind is conservative versus liberal. Okay, that's an example of us versus them. A business example is low ticket versus high ticket. It's like selling low ticket courses versus high ticket programs. And another example is public education versus self-education. You see where I'm getting here? So think of that as well, come up with some examples. Before and after, pretty self-explanatory. Before and after, who are you before and who are you after? I guess that also fits into backstory, but backstory is just more detail. All the events that happened between and before and after is pretty much the character traits of who you were before versus who you are after. So it doesn't get simpler than that. Because people want to look for inspiration, And if you can be that source of inspiration, if they are in the shoes of where you were before, for example, let's say before you were a coach, you were a skinny, broke, ambitionless, I don't know if that's a word, ambitionless geek kid who had no idea where his life was going to go, who was in debt. And let's say after now, you're making 20k a month, doing well for yourself, taking care of your family, taking care of your health, elite social circle. The people who were in your shoes before, who are in there now, they're going to look to you as inspiration, and then they're going to want to become who you are right now. So before, after, that's the role of it. And then mechanism is, what was the mechanism that may help you make that change? What was the mechanism in that backstory that helped you turn you from who you were before to who you are now? So for example, if you're a business coach, then obviously it would be entrepreneurship / coaching. I'm gonna put, what was the catalyst? Because, what was the catalyst? What was the vehicle that got you from before and after? For example, if you're a business coach, it'll be business, entrepreneurship, it will be coaching, online coaching. And why? Because that's how you make money and you learn a skill. If you're in sales, then obviously it would be sales. If you are in fitness, a fitness coach, then you most likely were unhappy with your health at one point, and then now you're teaching others how to get in shape. So what was the vehicle that got you from there to now? Fitness. And you can even go deeper. What kind of fitness? Maybe it was just weightlifting. Okay, that's your vehicle. Or calisthenics, whatever you teach. Mechanism. And that's pretty much it. So backstory, parables, character flows, polarity, us versus them, before and after, and mechanism. And if you have all of these in place and you make it clear in your marketing, you're putting yourself past 90% of the industry. Okay, some people are missing certain things, but if you can include all of it, then you're good. For example, some people like to skip out their character flaws because they don't want to be seen as someone who makes mistakes. So therefore, they're not as relatable as they could be with their audience. And then what that audience is going to do is they're going to hop into another competitor, in quotations, competitors, because they just relate with them more and they were able to share some flaws and be open about it. So some people are missing out character flaws. Some people aren't controversial enough, they lack polarity, they're just too agreeable. Some people, they're so private with their backstory, we don't know who they are in the first place. They're just another business coach. Parables, the ones I'm working on right now are with showing in my marketing, character flows, parables, so the mini stories, because I'm trying to get better at storytelling. It's not always been my strong suit, but I realized the sheer power of it. So I'm really trying to get better at it. So I'm trying to share more parables, trying to cause more polarity, so be more disagreeable, because you have to stand by something and you can't please everyone. And yeah, I'd say those three. And then the mechanism is important, obviously, because that's how you get people to buy into your service or whatever you're coaching or consulting on, because it's helped you, so they're going to see it in their own eyes how it's going to help them. So that's pretty much it. Character, have these in place, spend a couple hours coming up with ideas for these, and then start implementing them into your marketing. Sprinkle them in. You don't have to force anything, just sprinkle them in. Maybe one day you just make an Instagram story about your backstory again, or you just show some before and after pics, or tell some stories or parables. That's the whole point, is just have the whole package. This is how you craft your ideal character. It's not very complicated. And if you enjoyed this 2-part series, leave a like, let me know in the comments what you thought of it. And if you're still confused and you want to get in touch with me one-to-one privately, because YouTube doesn't have a DM feature, DM me on Instagram instead, @TheMattJacob, and we can chat there. So this was part 2, character building. First part, go watch it if you haven't, goes over the overview, and I promise you, once you start implementing these, you're going to be way more relatable. Your audience or your prospects are going to trust you more, even if they're complete strangers. They're going to be more open to booking a call with you once you start getting into DMs and appointment setting, because they've built that trust. And these clients, you're going to attract higher quality clients, because instead of some low level clients, because these low level clients will go for the people who don't implement this stuff out of desperation, and desperate prospects and clients don't make for good business. And where am I going with this? Okay, a couple more benefits. You're going to get to charge higher prices, again, because people, if they trust you so much, if you build a cult following, they don't care how much you charge at this point. They don't care. They just want to work with you that badly. So you're going to get to charge higher prices. And lastly, generate more leads, book more calls, and sign more clients. I don't need to explain, okay? This is the power of personal branding. This is the power of building your character and standing out. And if you want to talk about that more privately, DM me on Instagram at @themetjacob. And yeah, that's going to be the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed this 2-part series, and I'll see you in the next one. Appreciate you for watching, and I hope you got a ton of value out of these. I have a ton of fun making these videos, and I can't wait to keep sharing more of them. So anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Chat to you soon.